Have you ever noticed that saying asterisk, asterisk, no, asterisk, asterisk can sometimes feel harder than taking a difficult exam? You only want to decline a simple invitation, but then your fingers start typing. A long message begins to appear. You explain that you're busy this week. You describe your work schedule in detail. You apologize for not being able to help. You add another reason about your health, your family, or some unexpected task that came up. And before pressing send, you read the message a third time, just to make sure the other person won't misunderstand you. But the strange thing is that after sending it, you don't feel relieved at all. Instead, there's a quiet sense of exhaustion. A small question begins to appear in your mind. Asterisk. Do they believe me? Asterisk. Asterisk. Do they think I'm selfish? Asterisk. And just like that, simply saying asterisk, asterisk, no asterisk, asterisk, has placed another invisible weight on your shoulders. If you've ever experienced that moment, listen carefully to this. There is a quiet habit controlling many people without them even realizing it. It's called asterisk, asterisk, overexplaining, asterisk, asterisk. On the surface, it looks polite, kind, even responsible. But sometimes it's actually a sign that you're trying to prove your worth to other people. You're not just declining a request. You're trying to prove that you're still a good person. You're not simply sharing information. You're asking for permission to have the right to say no. And here's the part many people find hard to accept. The more you explain, the smaller you can appear in the eyes of others. Not because they're bad people, but because the human brain is wired to respect asterisk, asterisk, clear boundaries, asterisk, asterisk. In this video, we'll unpack what's really happening in your mind every time you feel the need to explain everything. Why you fear disappointing others so deeply. And more importantly, how to stop before this habit slowly erodes the respect you have for yourself. If you've ever felt like you're asterisk, asterisk so kind that it exhausts you, asterisk, asterisk stay until the end. Because what you're about to hear might reveal an uncomfortable truth. Sometimes the person treating you the worst is you. Imagine your brain as an alarm system installed very early in life. Its job is not to make you confident or happy. Its job is much simpler and much harsher. It just wants you to stay safe. And sometimes in trying to keep you safe, it makes you smaller in your relationships. This is where the habit of asterisk, asterisk, over-explaining asterisk, asterisk begins. In psychology, there is a response many people have never heard of, yet they live with it every day. It's called asterisk, asterisk, fawning, asterisk, asterisk. If you've heard of fight, flight, or freeze, fawning is the fourth response. Instead of fighting, running away, or freezing, some people learn to please others in order to avoid conflict. When you were younger, you may have discovered that agreement brought peace. That if you behaved well, explained yourself clearly, or apologized before being blamed, things became less tense. Your brain stored that lesson very carefully. Years later, when you simply want to decline a dinner invitation, that old alarm system turns on again. It whispers, explain a little more. Prove that you have a good reason. Make sure they don't think you're a bad person. The important thing is that in that moment, you believe you're communicating, but in reality, you're doing something very different. You're asking for permission to have boundaries. You're not just saying you're busy. You're trying to prove that you still deserve acceptance even when you don't meet someone else's request. That's why long explanations often come with anxiety, because deep down, you're waiting for the other person's judgment. Here's the paradox that's hard to accept. The more you explain, the less respect you may receive. Not because people are cruel, but because social psychology follows very old rules. One of them is asterisk, asterisk, status signaling. Asterisk, asterisk. In any group, people unconsciously read signals about one another's position. People who feel secure in their position tend to speak briefly. They make decisions and stop there. People who feel they need approval tend to speak more, justify more, and explain more. When you repeatedly give explanations that no one asked for, the other person's brain receives a subtle signal. Your time is negotiable. Your decision is still open for discussion. There's another powerful principle at work. Humans value what is scarce. If you are always available, always responding immediately, always adjusting yourself to meet others' needs, you unintentionally make your energy seem cheap. Not because you lack value, but because you've taught the world that they can always take more from you. But something interesting happens when you begin explaining less and trying less to please everyone. People start noticing your boundaries. They sense that your time is no longer unlimited. And in that moment, respect begins to appear. Many people resist this idea. They fear that if they stop explaining, they will become cold or selfish. This fear is especially common among empathetic people. But there is an important distinction to understand. There is a kind of detailed sharing that comes from joy. When you talk about a book you love or a topic that excites you, you might speak a lot, and that's not a problem. That's connection. But when you speak excessively because you're afraid someone might be upset with you, that's no longer communication. That's defense asterisk. A simple comparison helps make this clear. On airplanes, when there is an emergency, flight attendants instruct you to put on your own oxygen mask before helping others. The reason is obvious. If you lose consciousness, you can't help anyone. Your energy in life works the same way. When you constantly break promises to yourself just to satisfy others, you slowly run out of oxygen. And your brain records that as a dangerous message that your needs are not important. Self-respect is actually very simple. It's just the reputation you have with yourself. Each time you say no to yourself in order to say yes to someone else, that reputation drops a little. Over time, your own voice begins to feel less important. So how do you break this loop? Many therapists teach a simple but powerful rule summarized by 4 letters. JADE. It stands for times, justify, argue, defend, explain, asterisk. When you set a boundary, avoid these 4 things. Don't justify. Don't argue. Don't defend. Don't over-explain. Because every explanation is like opening a door, and someone determined enough can always walk through that door and try to convince you to change your mind. Try a small experiment the next time you decline something. Instead of writing a long message, say something simple. I can't join on Friday. Thank you for the invitation. And then stop. You'll likely feel a very uncomfortable silence. Your brain will scream. Say something else. Give a reason. Explain so they won't misunderstand. But that moment of silence is exactly where your boundary begins to form. When you start respecting your own energy, something interesting happens. The people who only wanted to exploit your kindness slowly disappear. Meanwhile, the people who truly respect you begin to appear more often. Not because you changed who you are, but because you stopped asking permission to exist. If you're listening to this and feel a little uncomfortable, that may be a sign it's touching something deep inside you. And that's exactly why you should stay until the end. In the next part, we'll talk about the most important step to fully break this habit, not just speaking less, but learning to use a tool that the most influential people rely on. Intentional silence. There's a strange moment that will happen when you start stopping the habit of over-explaining. The first time you say no, and end with a period, no extra apology, no long explanation afterward. In the first few seconds, you'll feel uncomfortable. Your brain will urge you to correct what you said. It will whisper that you should add a little more so the other person understands. But if you can sit with that silence, something very different begins to happen. You realize the world does not collapse just because you set a boundary. Personal boundaries are not walls meant to push people away. They are more like a door. You decide when to open it and when to close it. When you start respecting your own energy, you also send a very clear signal outward that your time has value, that your presence is not something others can demand at any moment. And interestingly, when you do this, the people who truly respect you won't leave. In fact, they often feel more comfortable around someone who knows their own limits. The only people who feel uneasy are those who are used to taking advantage of your kindness. If you still feel guilty when saying no, remember something simple. Self-respect is not about making others happy. Self-respect is about keeping your word to yourself. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is a very short sentence. No, thank you. Thank you. If this video made you realize that you've been over-explaining for years, try a small experiment this week. Just once. Say no and stop there. And if you want to learn a skill even more powerful than setting boundaries, watch the next video about the power of strategic silence.